What's up, guys? Welcome to Episode 8 of the Offseason breakdown. Today we got the Columbus Blue Jackets coming into the offseason with $40 million in cap space, so a lot of flexibility there for what they could do. Blue Jackets coming off a year where they way overperformed above expectation, and from what I've been seeing online is that I think they kind of want to hope to continue to build on that and push for the playoffs again this coming season. So today we're going to kind of make some moves to this roster that will kind of help push them towards the playoffs more. Either locking up probably a Metro 3 spot or one of the wild card spots, which is going to be hard because, the Metro's not necessarily super strong, but the Atlantic is. So competing for wild card spots with Atlantic teams might be hard. And I think they'd have more luck trying to sneak into the Metro 3 spot behind New Jersey and Carolina. And then, of course, you have the Capitals and the Rangers, though, who will probably be in the mix as well as at least two teams in the Atlantic that will probably be fighting for a wild card spot too, with probably like Tampa and Montreal. The Bruins, you never know, but I doubt it for this coming season. But you can never count the Bruins out. So, but diving right into it, looking at this roster, so it looks like I think where they could see some improvement is in their top six, or maybe more their middle six. And then the decor overall, I think, needs some fixing, as well as the goaltending. So first things I'm going to take care of here are I'm going to sign some of the RFAs that they have. So Dmitry Voronkov, we're looking at the AFP analytics here. They have him, if you were to sign long-term, 5 years, $6 million, shorter term, $4.3 million for 2 years. I kind of like the longer term one better, and I do agree with that AAV. I think about $6 million for 5 years is probably pretty fair, especially with the cap going up. Being able to lock him up like that would be pretty huge for the Jackets. Next order of business, I'm going to sign Daniil Tarasov, 2 years, $950K. Pretty unproven still, but still a good young goalie who could play backup for Merzlikins for now. So those are two good signings to get off the books immediately. But the issue this kind of causes is now we have an excess of left wingers, and you need some right wingers. And you have 3 top 6 left wingers in Chinnikov, Voronkov, and Johnson. So I think the most expendable of the 3 would be Chinnikov. So I'm going to actually go ahead and trade him to the Philadelphia Flyers in exchange for Owen Tippett, as well as adding some assets on the Blue Jackets side. So we're going to go Chinnikov. Let's see. We'll go 2027 second. And I think you got to add a little bit of a sweetener here with probably a younger guy who's not quite NHL ready, but will be. We'll go Mikhail Pitia here. He actually played 47 games this season, putting up only 7 points, but pretty sure he's like 23, still a young guy. Yeah, he's 23. Might not turn into a whole lot, but he could be a serviceable fourth liner in his career. And maybe you got to add maybe a little bit of a better prospect than that, so you could go like Dolzankov instead, or one of these guys. It kind of also depends what Philly's needs are. But overall, I think this is pretty fair. It's not like Tippett's value is crazy high, or that he's been super good, that he had a good year in the first year of his contract here. So it's a little bit of a risk to trade for, which is why I don't think the Flyers could get any more than this in a return. So if I'm them, I'm doing this deal pretty quickly if it comes across my desk. So we'll throw Tippett right there, second line right wing, and just like that, your top 6 is already looking a lot better. So next order of business I want to take care of is extending Fantilli. So looking at AFP analytics, their extension projections. Let's see, they have see what they got Fantilli going for. It's a lot. Yeah, $9.5 million for 7 years. I think it's pretty spot on actually. So I'm going to give him $9.5 million for 8 years. Maybe you can gamble him down to 9, but 9.5, 9. Either way, it doesn't matter. The Jackets have the cap space to do it. So we'll go with 9 for 8 years. So you lock up your future 1C which would be pretty huge for the Jackets to take care of this offseason. So this kind of solidifies this top six here. You got Kent Johnson, Fantilli, Marchenko, and then Voronkov, Monahan, and Tippett. I think that's a pretty solid top six. And even your top nine is pretty solid here. Boone Jenner and Cole Sillinger, those are some pretty good guys to have on your third line, as well as the money that you have that you could spend here on a right wing three. Another thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to extend Cole Sillinger. Just because similarly to Fantilli, he's young and you kind of want to get that out of the way now before his value kind of soars. They have him $5 million for 4 years here for a longer term one. I don't think he signs a 1 year or a short term deal. So I'll kind of actually go with this one. I'll go $5 million for 4 years. I think that's pretty fair. So then you have him locked up too. And then once Monahan regresses as he gets older, Sillinger can kind of jump up into that 2C spot, which would be pretty huge for the Blue Jackets. That's some good center depth down the middle. And this team is pretty young, so got to improve the defense though if you're going to really go anywhere. So let's start digging into that. So you kind of want to get rid of Severson's contract. Looking at these player cards for Dom Lucian of the Athletic here, Severson's worth $4.3 million. His contract is $6.3 million, but he's $4.3 million still means you're a good second pairing defenseman. So you can't get value for him. You're probably just gonna have to retain if you're the Jackets, which I think is fine. But a team that really needs a right defenseman and who could probably benefit a lot from Severson's services are the Montreal Canadiens. So I'm gonna send them Severson. And again, you probably have to retain about $2 million. It's not too bad. I mean, it's for a long time. It's for 6 more years, but with the cap going up, I mean, that's really not going to count that much, hopefully, towards the Jackets, especially with all the space that they currently have. But let's see. We're going to – and they're rumored to trade Mike Matheson here. Mike Matheson is on the trade block for the Canadiens. I think he'd be a great fit in Columbus on the left side. Where you kind of need some help there. Under Werenski, there's not much else. So having Matheson on the second pair, and then I think Denton Matachuk is the one on the third pair. I think that's a pretty solid left side overall. And Mike Matheson will help come in and give you some more offense from the point. So we're probably going to have to give up more than Severson here. Both these guys also have NMCs of some sort. So that's got to be taken into consideration as well. But Montreal seems to be a pretty favorable spot. So I wouldn't be – I think Severson would waive to go to Montreal. It's just would Matheson waive to go to Columbus? That's kind of the real question, but a little hard to say. But, yeah. So on top of that, though, we're going to add Jordan Dumais, send him over to the Canadiens. Good prospect. I think he lost some value this year as a prospect. Had a little bit of a down year, but we're going to send him in a third on top of Severson retained for Matheson. People think Matheson's going to get a first. I don't think he will, just because there's only 1 year left on his deal, but it does also kind of depend to what team he's going to. But I think if you're helping them with a need while also being helped with a need of your own, I don't think you have to pay a first because you are helping them as well. They're getting value in this trade. And I don't really know what a first rounder would do for Montreal at this point other than just be a trade chip in the future. So I'm going to go ahead. I'll submit this as is. I think this is pretty fair. And then, yeah, you'll have Matheson slot in here. And then I want to extend Matheson too. So again, going back to AFP's extension projections, we'll look at Matheson here. They have Matheson, there we go, going at $7 million for 4 years. I kind of like that. I think he'll maybe go for a little bit cheaper, probably not a lot cheaper though. So we'll go 6.75 for 4 years. Just because anything more than 4 years, he'll probably be too old there. And again, I mean, you've now kind of solidified your left side, but now your right side is pretty weak without Severson. And I mean, Goodbranson is kind of just an anchor, so I'll just buy him out. The buyout hit's not too bad since he's on the last year of his deal. So just buy him out. It'll be a 2-year buyout, $1.66 million per year. Not bad at all for a team with a ton of cap space. But now your right side's pretty depleted. So you're going to have to go do something about that there. So I'm going to go ahead and make a trade with the LA Kings and get a young young left or right defenseman who's been on the trade block, and that is Jordan Spence. I think he would be a great fit with the Blue Jackets. I think he fits their window almost perfectly. And yeah, so in exchange for him, we are going to give the Kings Jordan Harris, Minnesota's second round pick here. And then just as a sweetener, we'll add in our fourth round pick for the 2026 draft. And then bang. Hopefully that's a good enough trade for them. And then bang, Spence will slot in right there, and I'll extend him immediately too. I think probably around $5 million for 4 years is pretty fair for him. I mean, let's see if AFP agrees with that. Okay, that's exactly what they have him at too. So okay, yeah, it's perfect then. $5 million for 4 years. It's a nice little bridge into what'll be a real contract later. Although that is a very real contract. But yeah, so then you're kind of left here with this whole RD1 still. But if you do remember, the Blue Jackets currently have the UFA rights to Dante Fabro. I think you re-sign him before he hits free agency. I like a 5x5. I think it's fair, and I think it gives him good term, for a guy who's only really had one great year in his career. He's granted how young he is, but still. AFP here has him at 4.5 for 4. I'm gonna give him a 5x5, just a little bit more money for a little bit more term. And yeah, he'll only be 31 by the end of this deal, so you'll be squeezing his best years out of him here. And he played good on a pair with Werenski this year, so I think bringing him back and putting him with Werenski again would be a tidy piece of business for the Jackets. And then look, just like that, the D-core is looking way stronger overall. So now I think before we deal with this right wing 3 hole, we still have $24 million cap space. I think the goaltending needs some improvement here. So I'm going to go ahead and make a trade for a goalie. So to create space for him, I'm going to buy out Merzlikins. It's not like his buyout's too bad. It is over like 4 years. And some of those years are, upwards of like $3.5 million. But that's only 1 year. I think only the worst years like that bad. So I don't think it's a bad move at all to buy him out and create some space for a different goalie. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a trade here. I'm going to be sending next year's first round pick because I think this will be a trade that'll be after the draft. And I'm going to send Daniil Tarasov as well. Daniil Tarasov and a first over to the Vancouver Canucks for Thatcher Demko. The first, you could take out the first and you could add in a prospect. Like I think Trey Fix-Wolanski would be a perfect one here. And instead of doing the first, if you'd rather give Wolanski in a second or, Wolanski and maybe another prospect or maybe even a later pick, depending on kind of what the market is for Demko, you could do that too. I'm just putting the first for simplicity here. But there's a lot of questions around Demko and a lot of risk involved with bringing him in because of, the recent injury he's coming off of and how injury prone he's kind of been over the last few years. So giving up a first for him, I think it's already a lot. But if you're able to get a good year out of him and then extend him, then it's totally worth it, right? And he can be your goalie for the next few years while you kind of have a playoff window opening here by bringing him in. Because I just don't think Merzlikins is going to cut it. And then in a few years, you have Jet Greaves coming in. So Jet Greaves had a great year this past year. And I think he's, kind of his stock has gone up now more recently. And he's currently on pace to be a starting goaltender in the NHL. So if Demko experiment doesn't work out, maybe you give it a couple years. You can extend him for like one more year after this or get another goalie next year in free agency. And just until Greaves is ready, it's kind of patch the hole. And then hopefully Greaves is eventually ready to kind of take that role on himself and be the man. So let's see. Next move here. So we have a hole at our right wing 3. So looking at my trade board, I'm not going to trade for anyone just because we've already kind of traded a lot and given up a lot of assets. And I don't want to give up too many. You still want more tradable assets in the future to build on what holes are eventually going to come up within this roster because, injuries happen, guys underperform, contracts get bad, like everything happens, so you kind of got to be open to change whenever. So yeah, I'm not going to give up more assets now because I want to save those for future trades if I'm the Jackets. But we need a third line winger here. I think Victor Olofsson's a good fit here. He can excuse me, sorry. You can provide some good depth scoring for your bottom nine or bottom six. And I think he'd slot in pretty well under Tippett, and he's some good scoring for this third line. So we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna sign him as a UFA. I believe $3.5 million for 2 years seems fair. Let me know if you disagree or not. Let's see. So this lineup does look pretty good here. I think there's some younger guys other than Jack Williams who I think you can give these spots to. We'll put Luca Del Belbaluz here. Aston Reese too. I think he's kind of old. He gives you good grit and tenacity in your bottom six, but you already kind of have that with Matthew Olivier, who signed a totally bloated contract. I mean, let's just see what it would look like to buy him out. Buying it out wouldn't be the worst thing in the world in terms of cap hit, but it's a long buyout, right? But man, I don't know why they signed this, and he's already 28 too. I mean, he just kind of blossomed in the NHL this past year, 27, 28 years old, and then you go and sign him for $3 million for 6 years for a guy who's kind of just depth, grit. Like, I think teams overvalue grit, and it's a classic example of it right there, But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm the crazy one. Maybe he totally lives up to it. I mean, we can look for fun here, see how much Matthew Olivier is worth. 2.4 mil. He played the year was worth 2.4 mil according to the analytics. So 3 mil like for 6 years. I mean, that's hefty, So looking at this defense, I do kind of feel like it's still kind of lacking a little veteranship. You have Matheson who's 31, but you got a bunch of young guys here, and Matachuk, Spence, Fabro, Werenski's still pretty young, even though he's I'd say he's a vet at this point. He's been around. So I'm gonna bring in an old guy who can kind of play as an anchor here, and just to have a seventh D-man too when injuries will come up, because they inevitably will. It's gonna be Eric Johnson. If he is in here, Eric Johnson. There we go. Nothing crazy. I'll go 1.1 mil for 1 year. I think that's fine. He's just meant to be a veteran guy, can be serviceable on your third pair, on your PK, and come in for injuries or whatever. But yeah, overall, I mean, I'm really happy with this roster. I'm not sure how realistic some people may think it is or isn't. But I'm gonna link this roster right down in the description below. So feel free to leave a comment either directly here on YouTube, or you can go to the roster on Puckpedia, which is in the description, and leave a comment on there. And a lot of people from Puckpedia directly leave comments on there, so you can join the discussion with them. I love kind of answering the fan takes and whatever, what people have to say about my roster, good or bad. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video. I mean, we're leaving the Jackets here with 19 million cap space. Their cap projections over the next few years still look pretty good. And no one really major is going to be coming off the books here, because I kind of already re-signed like Sillinger, Spence, Fantilli, and Voronkov. I didn't re-sign Voronkov. I signed him. But he's signed for a long period of time, and they still have all this cap space. So, next year in free agency, you can make a big splash if you're on the right track. Also, though, in a lot of these trades, I know some of these guys have NMCs and NTCs and whatnot, and Columbus is not always the most preferable destination to go, as we know very well. But it's fun to speculate, right? And it's fun to see what the Jackets could do here to patch these holes that they have and get themselves back to a playoff spot, which they haven't been in a few years. So yeah, it's going to do it. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, leave a comment on here on YouTube, and you could leave one on Puckpedia as well. So I will catch you guys in the next one, the Dallas Stars. So thank you for tuning in. Peace.